a nice weekend. And as usual, the way the weekdays are different than the weekends. Weekdays are when Bobby's on like triple duty. Doing NBA all the way through lock, through all the late swaps, and in there. And the weekend, that's where I'm freaking just grinding, putting all the sports out, like doing all this stuff, putting with MMA and NASCAR. We had Brandon Cruz on. I want to talk to you about that offline, where we did a lineup build, did all kinds of sports, all kinds of stuff.
Oh, awesome.
So now we're kind of, and we were both playing golf this weekend, and we both I think we both did decently at golf. So overall, pretty big weekend at DFS, leading right into Monday, getting the gang back together and starting off with a good old NBA value slate.
Yep, it's going to be one of those a little bit, at least as of right now. It looks like it. What's kind of nice is that I see your early projections in here, and I actually feel like they make a lot more sense to me than the SaberSim early projections. And we've seen this a little bit with SaberSim, where early in the day it tends to round out by the later in the day. I mean, for Rodney McGruder to ever be projected to score 30 fantasy points, unless they only have 5 players on the team, I just don't understand how that's possible. Now, I'm not saying that he couldn't, just that it's just a ridiculous number to have him as a median at when he's legitimately played like 35 minutes in games this year and he's never gotten there, never gotten to 20, I don't think. So things like that are things we want to look out for. So he's like currently for SaberSim projected as the best guy on the slate. I just don't see that as being the case. So
can't imagine playing Rodney McGruder in a big buy-in.
And right now he looks like the most, on the early SaberSim look. But again, SaberSim will have it rounded out and it'll be figured out by later in the day. I've seen this a bunch of times.
One other thing about SaberSim, I want to update everybody on. They've made a lot of changes to a lot of things in the past couple of weeks. And even I'm not completely up to speed on the best way to leverage that. I'm hoping to get Jordan on to do a kind of an updated video. I know that they do put YouTube videos out, and you guys can feel free to go to the SaberSim's YouTube site and check out the different things. But I think we should do something with them where they walk me through a couple of things. And that was one thing I wanted to mention. But yeah, I mean, listen, it is early in the day, and things will coagulate. Other things will open up, and Giannis will get ruled out. You know how it goes, So, and that's actually a very real possibility. I just didn't throw that one out there. There because they're on a first end of a back-to-back themselves. So anyway, I guess we'll go game by game and get into it, and we can get right into it in the first game, right?
Yeah, we'll get right into it. I'm just going to mention real quick. I'll post all my stuff later. I do want to give a little shout out. I want to encourage people to check out Better Takes, BETTORTAKES. We check out our Discord. I'll attach the link in the chat, but I also want to check it out. It's really helped my NBA betting, and we're really realizing that over under and Western Conference games are really my strong suit over a year and a half of doing this. This could really help you, especially if you have a history of betting. You can upload it right away. I really suggest people take a look at Better Takes. And nobody's charging anything for this right now. So we're just get in there. Let us know what you think as a favor, if nothing else. But also, I think it'll really, really help your betting. It certainly has mine. I'm also, for those of you who are members of the site, I am posting my daily bets over there, in addition to on our site as well. So make sure to jump on into that. I'm going to get the invite put up right now. And with that said, we can jump right into the slate. Sorry, Sheets. Go ahead. Let's get right into it right off the bat. Everything going on right now, in this first game.
So. Again, I've kind of stopped showing the this is the compromise I made with myself. I mean, I didn't know whether to continue to show my sheets, for free during these YouTube videos.
I think early in the day for basketball, whatever, it's fine.
No, I don't think so. So what I think I am going to do, I'll split the difference. Like on days where I happen to end up doing it myself or something like that. Like if you're out, then I'll do it. But otherwise, I'm just going to make that premium. I mean, that's just the way it's going to be. If you guys really want, if you come to the live before lock, maybe I'll flash them, whatever it is. But I think we owe it to the people that pay to do whatever. But I'm going to be referring to them throughout the course of this early stream. And I will say this, that at least as of now, if you rate them by points per dollar, in the top 10 overall values, I have 10 coming from this game. I mean, literally 10.
Yeah, I know.
And then 11 out of the top 12. So that's what you're faced with. I mean, and what that means, by the way, it means a couple of things. This is my take in general, is that you can get 5 good plays from both teams, but you're not going to play 5 from one and 5 from the other, right? You're going to have to make some choices. And there was a slate like this maybe a week or so ago, where you knew that somebody of a group of 6 or 5 were going to get there, but you weren't exactly sure which one it was going to be. So unless you're willing to just shuffle every combination, it's a very, very difficult. It's sort of a difficult slate, because I know that somebody from Detroit's going to get there, but who is it going to be? Magruder? Is it going to be Eugene Omoruyi? Is it going to be RJ Hampton? I currently think that Hayes is obviously the most logical, right? And he's the one that I'd probably start with. But once you start getting into the full, how many of these guys are going to play? I mean, look, Isaiah Livers, is he definitely going to be the guy? I don't know. I guess Duran is probably, solid enough, but he's competing with Isaiah Jackson on the other side of this game, the exact same spot, the exact same position, in the exact same salary, pretty much. So you could try playing them both, but it's not just so easy to say, okay, this game's got all the value, let's just play everybody. You can't just play everybody. You're going to have to make some choices, and I think we can start. This is at least my take is, I think on Indiana, I'll start with that one. I do like Isaiah Jackson and Chris Duarte. I think the best. And then Nembhard would be the third. And then on the Detroit side, I like Killian Hayes significantly better than anybody else. And I honestly can't separate Magruder, Omoruyi, Hampton, so I don't know what I'm going to do with those. So I'm going to start with I'll take the easy ones. I'll take Hayes, I'll take Indiana, I'll take Jackson Duarte, and I'll let you try to convince me of who's actually the best of the cheapos.
Yeah, so the natural thing is first of all, Indiana, as we always mention, they have more bodies than you would think, The weird thing is I don't know where they stand with the bottom of that thing. With the James Johnson, they did dust him off the other night, and he played 21 minutes. Daniel Tice hasn't played even with all this stuff, and they do have other bigs. So they don't need to go to him. Traveling Queen is also available. I'm just going sort of reverse order because I think this is really important to get this game right. O'Shea Brissett has mostly sort of fallen out of things where I think that he's going to be. So these are the unplayable guys, the guys I'm not going to play. I'm open to the idea of Nwora, even though he's not going to project well. And oddly enough, the games, he actually played his lowest minutes of games without Halliburton than the other night, that he's played, basically as a pacer since game 2. So Nwora is sort of more of a wild cardy thing. I don't think I'm not going to play George Hill. So I think one of Jalen Smith or Jackson, and by the way, they both smashed the other day. They don't play them together all that much. And if Bagley was available, they might tonight. I don't think they're going to. I think they're going to stick with the Nesmith Jackson and not see them as much together. But you might see a little bit of them together. So I would have that as priority number one is, along with Nembhard, is you want one of Jackson or Smith. But I do think Nembhard is the clear best play on the Indiana side. I would have Duarte and Buddy Hield the next two. And then Aaron Nesmith it's a little funny with him too, with all these guys out. He only played 20 minutes the other night in a matchup with Detroit, but that might have been partially because they did play the two bigs the other night together. So I think that really the only ones I feel a must play of right now are Nembhard and one of Jackson or Smith. And then I think Duarte would be the next guy in for me. And I think he's a pretty solid player. I think Buddy Hield is a really good play at 7,100, but the ownership is going to be there. And we've seen Buddy Hield 4X plenty of times and 5X plenty of times in this situation. But just on his own, he seems like a really good play. He's questionable right now. If for any reason he doesn't get a bunch of ownership, I would be all over Buddy Hield. So that's how I have the Indiana side. The Detroit side, I'm sort of doing a similar thing, crossing out basically Livers at this price, even though he certainly plays the minutes. Corey Joseph, the price is a little uncomfortable. Jared Rhoden, not going to play him. I do think Wiseman is kind of interesting. And I'm going backwards here. I'm going to get to my favorite ones later. I think Wiseman is kind of interesting. I love Hayes. I'm a little surprised that he's not even projecting better. I think RJ Hampton is a better tournament play, but I don't think like we can just assume that he's going to get a ton of minutes tonight. Like they have only 10 bodies, and I don't love these other ones, so I guess he should get minutes. But we're still just speculating, and it doesn't feel like a spot where you want to speculate and play a guy at 35% ownership. Jalen Duran, that's the other thing that you might see, which would also make Jackson and Smith playable together, is if they somehow played Wiseman and Duran together. Now, we haven't really seen that, but it's just something worth considering when you only have 10 bodies. And, you know, one of these guys, why can't they play the 4 for part of the game, especially if Jalen Smith and Jackson are playing? So just considering Duran right now. And then, I mean, really the only must play I feel, or not must play, but close to must play is Hayes. Everybody else feels like a big old question mark to me. I would only use a guy like Magruder in the stack of this game, which you might end up doing because there's so much value in it. But right now the priority is Hayes for me. I think Wiseman is number 2 to go with Nembhard, Jackson, or Smith with Duarte. And that's sort of, I think, how you're starting your builds, at least as of this morning at this time. Does that make sense to you, Sheets? Or are you – everybody else is on Omoruyi. I'm still up in the air on this one. I may end up with like all of him by the end of the day, but more likely I probably end up with less than the field. He can play minutes and not do much. The problem is we can't say that about everybody, right? So some of these guys have got to do something. And, you know, Isaiah Livers is going to play 100 minutes and not do much offense, like not do much in terms of shot creation and stuff. Although it's probably worth noting he put up 39 in the last game. But Magruder's going to play a lot of minutes and not do a whole lot, which should mean the other guys like Hayes and Wiseman should do Hayes, Wiseman, Joseph, and Hampton while they're in should have great usage rates, all of them. But you can't play all of them together. So I'm siding with Hayes and Wiseman. I guess Omoruyi would be right there with Hampton as my next one.
I wanted to add one thing. I want to talk about Nembhard for a second because back when Halliburton was out like months ago or whatever it was, Nembhard was just smashing when he was able to get all the usage. And then what happened was that he got moved. They kept him in the starting lineup when Halliburton came back. And I kept on wanting to play him, and you kept reminding me, listen, it's just a different situation. Even though he's starting and getting the minutes, the difference between when he actually has the ball and you know what I mean, and when he doesn't makes a really, really big bit of difference. And so now we not only have Halliburton out, but also there's no McConnell. So
yeah, that was the other thing that killed him earlier in the year is that people were, the McConnell thing, because McConnell would just have all the usage while he was in. Without either of those guys, it's really hard for me to see Nembhard not succeeding here.
Yeah. So, and the other guy I would throw in, and it's kind of a shame that this is not a 10 o'clock game because I would save this type of play for a late swap in case I needed it. And this is like biased because this guy's done it for me before at like no ownership. But I would take a shot to go back to Brissett maybe at 3,100. Just, he can do it in not that many minutes sometimes. And I, in deep stuff and big GPPs and whatever it is at 3,100, I don't know if I could do it at 7 o'clock though. You know what I mean? Like
right.
That's the only problem, especially like you said. Is this the neck tech guy, the James Johnson? Yeah. Especially with him being now, I don't want to say in the mix, but like on the team, you know what I mean? Like, and he was certainly in the mix the last time these guys played exactly against each other, So maybe that's asking for it, but I figured I'd throw it out there.
Yeah, we could speculate on a whole bunch of things if it was later, I think. The problem I have with Brissett is he's extremely low usage and has gotten there because he was starting and playing 30 minutes. The fact that he's not projected to play more than 24 minutes tonight is going to make it a tough sell for me. Yeah. But I understand like the thinking and a lot of this may change if they change their starting lineup. I don't think they will, but they very well may just because it's something they do. And for what it's worth, I think both these teams, the guys who are out there are gonna play. They won the last game, Indiana, so I'd imagine they'd keep things the same for this game. The only thing that worries me a little bit is that like these teams that are in like the do we win or do we tank thing. I just want to throw that out there. And Indiana is like a great example of it. They're right on the cusp of the playoffs. Do they like? If I were them, I actually think I kind of would like to be in the playoffs because you're not going to probably get a great pick anyway. So I think Indiana plays, but the fact that Halliburton's been out and all these guys are out, it does make me a little bit nervous that what are they doing exactly? So just throwing that out there. And will they play 10 guys like 24 minutes each? That is with the guys they've got. That's kind of like on the table. So we just gotta remember that. And we'll figure it out as we pick out the rest of the slate. But it certainly is right off the bat a very interesting first game.
Well, one other thing I would say also, though, is that, and I made this case, I don't know whether these guys played each other actually, I think it was Detroit played Charlotte or something like that, I make the case that in games like this, where there are very few games that teams can like actually like look to win. I mean, not look to win. They want to win games. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like you said, it's not like Tank City anymore because the way the lottery works. And you got a game that you can actually win. You might actually try to win. You know what I mean? Like, you might actually try to get a tight rotation if you know what it is. You know.
Right.
So that's why, like a team like Detroit, like in this spot like this, I think that Hayes is like, I think he's a really, really strong player. So.
Yeah, I agree with you on that part, 100%. And by the way, again, I just want to remind everybody. I know I keep doing this, but I think it's really important. Get this stuff buried in your head. The Detroit is not playing to lose games. They might be losing games. That's because they're bad and they're not playing any of their guys. They don't care necessarily about winning games. But the guys who are out there are going to go out there and try to win, and they're not like in this tanking situation. There's nothing they can improve on. Nothing. Just throwing that out there. All right, moving on. Utah, Miami. Sheets, I guess I'll go quickly on this one because I don't have a lot of things on the Utah side that I'm having an easy time making sense of. We had the huge game from Tucker. I believe that was yesterday. Clarkson is still questionable. That you could open it if Clarkson's out. I guess you could go right back to PJ Tucker or even Olynyk would have some appeal to me. On the Miami side, I think that Bam is fine, and that's pretty much most of what I have in this game. I don't really have a lot of interest in no reason to play the fringy play, although he's looked really good in real life of Oladipo. I just don't see any reason to get involved in too much else over here. Are you getting anything here?
No, I'm going to pass on this game. I think the key to the slate, if you wouldn't mind, we just go on to the next one, is to figure out what to do with all this value that we're going to get, right? So you're going to play something. You're going to play 6 guys probably from the Indiana Detroit game, or maybe a little less, but whatever. But you're going to play like a bunch of guys. And the question is, what are you going to do with that? Because it's not like there's spend ups from Indiana Detroit you want. You have to figure out what spend ups or how to make use of that value. And so what I'm looking at, and I think the slate like really kind of plays itself, but it plays itself with some choices. I think what you have to do is try to find games with guys with big upside and big projections, maybe against each other, and try to do one of those correlation deals and use the value to kind of make all that work. Utah Miami does not fit that description, but like the next one may, you know what I mean? So I think we should just go on to the next one. Figure that out. So like I'll start with it. Like I'm hopefully Kyrie plays. I really couldn't imagine him not playing. I don't know. He was out for personal reasons. Then he had a foot, but he went through shoot around and then didn't play for some reason yesterday. And they gave some dude the Hardy like 100 minutes and whatever it is. I'm presuming that Kyrie is going to play, and I think this is a game where you could do something where you play Kyrie with, say, who's the best guy from the other team, maybe like Desmond Bane or something, and then hope that those two go off, and that's how you could spend salary. In addition to that, or you might want to play Jaren Jackson Jr. or something like that. So I think that's definitely, and I think you want to play something like that together. Now I will tell you that I've been getting. When I run my SaberSim bills, I've been getting all kinds of this Luke Kennard business over the last couple of days. I haven't really actually played it, but just to let you know that I have been getting to some as a point per dollar play. It's just kind of not my thing, especially on a slate like this.
Right.
So I would take a shot, maybe even Jaren Jackson Jr., Bane, Kyrie, and hope the game goes off, and that's one way you can make use of that value from Indiana Detroit.
Yeah, I love Tyus Jones. I think he's going to be overlooked tonight, and it's going to be. We'll get into why. Like we have the cheap value guards, in the other game, and then it's hard to play Ty. Like people are going to play Bane, but I'm just going to throw out. Like I think that the one game against the Lakers is an aberration. I mean, Tyus Jones last 3 games 60, 51, 35, and you get the worst defensive team in the NBA since Kyrie has joined their team. So I am absolutely on board with playing Tyus Jones, but I would probably, unless I was stacking this game, which I think is really a viable it's a secondary stack where you're spending all your salary, if that makes any sense. You're maybe using more guys in the other game, but you're going to try and stack this game a little bit.
Yeah.
So I think that playing playing Tyus with either Bane or Jackson, or even Brooks, to be honest with you. Even a guy like Tillman, by the way, who's been productive, he's just center only eligible. I think that might have some effect on him today. I don't really know why though. And then on the other side, I think that you just sort of have to and it feels like overpaying based on the I don't know, the fact that we know there's a floor there, I guess. But I mean, I don't know why we not play Kyrie here. I think he's going to be pretty popular, but Kyrie with a couple of those guys on the other side seems like a very natural way to build. And Kyrie's not getting a lot of love. One other thing, though, that is a really interesting play from this game for me is I actually think Josh Green is kind of interesting. And I think Jaden Hardy, I think there's just a lot they could do with their lineup. We don't really know. But I think that Christian Wood is like an interesting tournament play. I just don't see people using him. And if there was a time for them to break him free and let him play some minutes, this would be the time. I don't know.
I don't think I can do it with the position.
Who else are we playing over him?
Isaiah Jackson at 4,600. Duran. I mean,
right, and you kind of want 4 guards. I'm not Duran Finney-Smith. Is that who you said?
No. Duran.
Oh, Duran. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Wiseman even. I mean, Christian Wood's 6K.
No, and that's the thing though. But there's a 6K 50-point upside type of thing, depending on how the game plays. Why would Dwight Powell maintain the reason why they keep the other guys in is to try and have some semblance of defense with Luka, because their defense is so bad because they traded all their best defenders and they have 2 of the worst defenders in the backcourt. But I mean, as a shot blocker, Wood is good, and more importantly, this guy can offensively carry a team. I just think it's kind of interesting to think about. It's a large field play, but again, that's what you're trying to figure out. Kyrie's the obvious one. Ty Jones, Bane, and Jaren Jackson.
Well, if you look at my screen, I mean, like I said, these things just build themselves today. You know what I mean? Like this, a bunch of Indiana, Detroit. You could play Jackson, Tyus Jones, and Kyrie, and then you know what I mean? And then you're off to the races. I mean,
I hear you. That's exactly. I totally and that's what I'm seeing as well. But let's see what else we got here, because
So let's go on to Minnesota, Atlanta, and you could do something very, I guess somewhat similar. I don't really care too much about projections with the rest of these lineups. You know what I mean? I just want the guys that can score a lot of fantasy points and hope, because I can play them, and just hope I'm on the right side of when they're going to score a lot of fantasy points. I'm like sorting here. I mean, I see what's Trae Young is 9,400, and then and Anthony Edwards. You can play Trae Young and Anthony Edwards and get away with that. And that's definitely something you could do. When you look at actual rankings and stuff like that, I'm really not getting to too much in this game. I mean, when DeAndre Hunter, again, he always shows up. He's 4,800. I guess that's fine. Taurean Prince is 3,600, but I'm not playing him at 3,600 today. So again, this is listen, if you don't want to play Kyrie with the 2 Memphises or whatever, you could go ahead and play, and it's very similar because you're using up the same positions. Use Trae Young over here, and then you play what's his name? Where's Anthony Edwards, who hasn't gotten there in a while, it seems.
He got there last game, but yeah.
Oh, he did.
I think that was overtime.
But one thing you do want to look for today, as usual, is Gobert being questionable. So if he is out, I mean, then it's obviously then it's Naz Reid season, and with any luck, that news comes out before 7. But aside from that, I mean, it's a 200 million point total. It's like, so play Trey and Edwards, hope the game goes off, and you have plenty of money to do this.
All I can tell you is that if Gobert doesn't play, he's really hurt, because they are in. I mean, this is the crunch time of crunch times for them. Like, this is like you could be the 6th seed, you could be the 11th seed and out of the play, as opposed to the play-in. It's really important to get that 6th seed. We need to treat it like the 8th seed for the playoffs. This team, more than any, really needs to make it there. So I think if they play, not only do they play a ton of minutes. Conley's actually, like, I agree with everything you said about this game. Edwards versus Trey makes sense. I think Gobert is actually a strong play if he plays, just because the pace of the game and the fact that you have guys who will just stay down low, whether it be Capella or Okongwu, which is when Gobert has his monster games, because he's down low the whole time. He doesn't have to come out to these guys. So I'm sort of not really on to a lot of the other Atlanta plays personally. I think John Collins had a really bad shooting game the other day against Boston, but the minutes coming back, I think he's the one I would side with. I actually think he's a pretty good play in his own right. And then I think that, as you mentioned, Trey has looked good. I mean, he's, for this price, actually, you'd say that he's looked really good. I don't really understand, why they haven't raised it. And it's not just been by shooting. His assist numbers are great. He had 40% usage rate in the last game, which is just unbelievable. So I like the Trey Edwards thing. Or if you wanted to go go Kyle Anderson on the other side, even Mike Conley, all those guys seem very reasonable to me. I just can't use too many guard spots. So most likely it'll be Edwards for me on one side and probably Trey on the other side. They're just so deep, Atlanta. It's kind of hard. I tried the Bogdanovich thing to mixed results. I had the good game and the bad game from him. I just don't think I want to do anything like that on a slate like this. I think it's John Collins, Trey Young, Anthony Edwards, and Rudy Gobert are the guys I'm looking at here.
I'll tell you, if you guys want an example of how tough the NBA can be sometimes, DFS wise. So on March 7th, Rudy Gobert played 25 minutes and had like 2 fantasy points. 3 days later, he went off they dropped him to 7K and DFS players just pounded him. Okay, they played a million% of him. And when they went to overtime and scored 1 million fantasy points, it's tough sometimes. I would not be. I shouldn't say I wouldn't be surprised if they said it's 3 days later. They could play him again. They said he played through the ankle injury into overtime. I mean, what the hell? I guess that is testament, like you said, to the fact that they really need to win.
They both, they really do. And for what it's worth, Atlanta on the other side is almost in the exact same position. So these teams are needing to keep themselves in it. Atlanta's a little bit in a funny spot. They're pretty they could still make it up to the 6 possibly, but it's pretty unlikely. But it's possible. More likely, I think that they're looking at a 6, 7, 8, or 9 or 10, but they're probably in. It's just going to take a little while, but before they can realize it. So they're going to play out until that happens.
I will say this: if it's 6:55 and there's no news on Minnesota, and Gobert is still questionable, clicking the Isaiah Jackson button at 4,600 might be a little scarier than people would think. Like if you get Naz Reid at 4,400. I mean, that's kind of insanity, But then again, he could play power forward. Naz Reid, okay. Naz Reid, they actually made him power forward eligible too. I forgot about that.
Yeah, he's power forward eligible. The problem is that he just doesn't get the minutes without the. And by the way, also Jalen Smith is also available at power forward. If you wanted to use a different build, but yeah, I am still on the side of I'm. Like, unless he's really hurt, I just can't imagine them not playing him. But
right.
I mean, I'm not missing a back-to-back, right? That was 2 days. That was Friday, wasn't it? Didn't they not play since
Correct. It was 3 days ago. Yeah.
Yeah, it was Friday, the last game they played. I would assume he plays, but I certainly understand the speculation. Fortunately, at least it's close enough to lock time to where we might know.
I don't know. The Gobert ruled out thing has been notoriously late.
Yeah, it's true. But also a lot of those games though were at least a little bit later. And we really knew with his groin that he couldn't walk. Basically, they were trying to prove a point. Now it's like with the ankle, I just imagine that he's going to play. But if not, I have a feeling maybe not. Maybe you're right. Maybe it will be late. It's a fair point, fair thing to consider. Obviously, needless to say, if he's out, you're just playing Naz Reid. If Naz Reid was 7K, if he's out 8K, you'd probably still play Naz Reid.
All right, so next shot at trying to do this, if you didn't want to play the Tyus Jones, Bane, Jackson, Kyrie thing, or if you didn't want to play the Trae Young, Anthony Edwards, whoever thing, you could try to do something with the Boston too. Like you could just pay the 10-9 for Tatum. And then I think for the Houston, I think you need a couple of them. So you just have to kind of pick your favorites. Now Sengun, he's probable. Every time I play Sengun, he never closes. This is the problem. But I don't know, pick a couple of your favorites. Jabari Smith, 6,100. That's pretty tough. Even Jalen Green at 6,700 is kind of tough. But again, they're probably all going to be low owned as a result. So, but it's something. Again, I'm not as concerned about the price with this type of thing. So, I think that Tatum definitely on the Boston side, and on the Houston side, boy, I'd have to really struggle to figure out who I would want to play there. But I'd probably come up with something.
Yeah, on the Boston side, I have a hard time personally finding out who to play. Like, I think Jaylen Brown is the best play on Boston.
Oh, okay.
But I don't think it's like a great play. And I think Tatum is completely fine. This is a game where you'd expect them to be able to at least have some sort of control over the game. Knock on wood. I don't know. I don't know. It's a great matchup for Boston. Needless to say, everybody's healthy. Everybody's sort of projecting in that middling range. I'm not going to fault you for playing literally any of the Boston starters or Brogdon, but I probably in my builds won't get there. That's just where I'm at right now. If I ended up on any of them, I wouldn't feel bad about Smart, Horford, White, Brown, Tatum, or Brogdon. But I'm not trying to build around playing these guys. Jalen Green is definitely the most appealing option on the Houston side for me, and everybody else is kind of meh. I guess Kevin Porter Jr. and Jalen Green, but even those guys, I don't feel great about it. I don't love this game. I'm probably going to end up off of it, but Jalen Green and Kevin Porter Jr. is my two favorites from Houston.
So listen, listen again. It's 1240 and whatever it is, but I will have made worse lineups in my life than playing all three of those Houston guys, three of the overpriced Houston guys between Jalen Green, Jabari Smith Jr. and Kevin Porter Jr. I mean, they all are going to need to have freaking big games to be close, I think. And to run it back with a freaking Tatum, imagine that goes to overtime. So I'm not saying if this is a good thing to do, but I'll just say that I've done worse things in my life. And I'll probably do something like that in the lottery.
Yeah, and maybe I brushed off Jabari Smith too quickly.
The guy's on freaking fire right now.
He's on fire right now, and it's not all shooting reliant. The rebounding is good. Maybe finally coming into his own a little bit. Maybe Houston's finally realizing, hey, our two best players are Sengun and Jabari Smith right now. Jabari Smith is their biggest future guy. Jalen Green, it's all fun and good, but if I were them, I would be trying to get Kevin Porter Jr. out of there as quickly as possible.
Yep.
Good stats guy, not a great real life basketball player. All right, ready to move on to the evening ones. All right.
Yeah. So if you didn't want to do any of those things, and all those things are pretty good. You have Phoenix against Golden State, and what's it called? Steph Curry is a good basketball player, and you have a couple of guys from Phoenix that aren't bad either. You have Durant out. Boy, how could you play Booker at 10-1? Well, I think this is the slate to do it. You know what I mean? Because you really don't care about price too much here. So you want to do something like this on any other slate, I would say it's freaking suicide. But I think on a slate like this, I think you can get away with this. I mean, there are variations where these guys both score 45 plus real life points or something like that. And I don't know. I kind of want it if it happens. So. That's really my opinion on this game.
Yeah, I actually have as a priority to try to make sure to play here are the three spend ups that I like that or spend up ish is that no one seems to be on that much. I like the Booker. I love Chris Paul tonight. I'm totally surprised. I think he's
Wow.
being way under projected, like just drastically under projected. I really think in this type of a matchup, you should be, in games that you're really trying to win, you should have him like probably like in the low 40s or higher, maybe even higher. Another team, trying to hang on to at least home court in the first round, outside chance to move up to the 2 or the 3. They're going to play, and they're playing, the defending champs. Like I like this a lot. I really like Chris Paul. Followed by Paul, I have Booker. But if you're not playing those guys, I would definitely play Ayton. I want one of those 3. The other side of it, there's a few Q tags. I don't think any of it's going to end up actually mattering by the end of the day. I just think you could just make the argument, okay, I'm going to play Steph Curry or I'm going to play Klay Thompson and just have that be the game. For what it's worth, I'm just going to take a quick look at Steph's usage. I'm pretty sure, because when I've watched them, he's looked a lot more active and they're playing him a ton of minutes. Yeah, he is. Usage always over 30. That's not something we've seen from him all in the past. He's put up, 60 and 56, 2 out of his last 3. The weird part, the part that's stuff with him a little bit is the assists are down and just a little bit, and he's taking a ton of shots. The problem is it's sort of back to where it's all scoring dependent, which is okay, but it's not the ideal situation to do that against a team that's not going to let you just go nuts. I guess he is Steph Curry though. So yeah, Curry to run back would be my favorite with one of those guys. And again, nobody who really stands out as being like a crazy play. Are we overlooking Torrey Craig because of a few bad? I mean, he's not going to play enough minutes, right? He's playing. I mean, he's starting at 3,500, but I just don't think he's not active enough. Yeah, maybe I'm just talking myself out.
Well, he's the top rated point per dollar play from this game. But yeah. Again, he's a guy that'll get there when I don't play him. You know what I mean? I just when I play him, he plays 37 minutes and scores 12 fantasy points. I don't know.
I know. And then he had this weird. Do you remember this? He had a stretch when it made no sense. Like they had all their players last year, and he had like 3 games of over 60. Just out of nowhere. But I don't know. Maybe this is not the right. Maybe I'm just reaching, trying to find something different. But I do think that I will prioritize. For me, it's Paul right now. But one of Paul, Booker, or Ayton, I think that's a tremendous little grouping for who to spend on with this other value that we've got.
Tim F brings up the point in chat that it's a national televised game tonight, which certainly doesn't hurt.
Yeah. Is it a national televised game?
That's what he's saying. I don't know.
I'm gonna double check that because we usually don't get NBA games on Monday nights for TV. They don't. It's usually Tuesday through Friday. So let's see what I've got for tonight. It is. It's an ESPN. The double ESPN again. Okay, I guess we're in that time of year. Yeah, Grizzlies, Mavericks, Suns, Warriors. Usually I check it right after.
Good call.
How about I'm starting to find my build a little bit. I sort of like the Kyrie, Chris Paul with your value, and then maybe try to find the one run back from Memphis or something. Those 3 spots, and then you use the other ones as my favorite way. But again, we're mentioning a lot of possible ways.
Chris Paul's going to be pretty contrarian. I think that's a good call by you.
Yeah, I mean, if it works, I'll take it.
Yeah. So hold on. So same type of analysis, right? So we talked about different ways to make use of the value, and just to go backwards, right? We had Memphis, Dallas. You could play Kyrie with those Memphis guys. You could play Trae Young with the Minnesota guys. You could play, if you wanted to, Tatum with the Houston guys, or Phoenix. You could play what we talked about, Curry and Booker and Curry and Paul, for example, like you mentioned. Or, listen, Giannis right now is questionable. It is the first end of a back-to-back, so I don't know what they do with it. But if he's gonna play, I mean, what's it's the same thing. You know what I mean? Like you could afford to do this. You could play Giannis and say Sabonis, or kind of a reduced value on Fox here down to 8,800. Like play Giannis with one of these guys and just rock and hope that 200 million point total just delivers. So I think it's very reasonable. And Giannis, if he gets ruled out, for example, I mean, you can make that work. You could play, First of all, I'm not exactly sold that if Giannis is out, I would even really want to play them.
Now
You
that
know,
they all got priced up.
yeah. So if you want to like put in a stack with all that, and then he gets ruled out, let's go move it to the Phoenix game. You know, whatever. But listen, I think that that Fox and Sabonis on a slate like this are both very, very playable. And I think Giannis, if he plays on a slate like this, is incredibly playable because you can afford it, and you don't want to split hairs at value with these high price guys today.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I'm first of all, I definitely want to play some Giannis, and like you said, if I play Giannis with something from the other side, I can. Like, let's say you played Giannis and. So let's say you play Giannis and
Just look around my board here. I put Giannis and Sabonis here. It's just like simple, you know, like
but the other spots are what matters, because I'm saying like this is because so you'd have to have players from the Golden State Phoenix game. You'd have to have a third player in there, so you could even it out if you wanted to try and balance that, because you can't balance it out with Giannis and Sabonis being the last two guys. That means you're leaving a few thousand on the table. You could only balance it out if you had another guy from the 10 p.m. games.
Oh, if you wanted to play someone from Phoenix, you mean?
Well, no, because what if Giannis doesn't play? Then you're leaving 3,000 on the table and playing Fox.
Right.
So I'm saying if you wanted to get, if you want to
have something flexible, okay, I get
you. Want something flexible, I would probably take a shot on something that's a little bit weird, like a. I guess the one I like the best is probably Torrey Craig. As if you play Torrey Craig with those guys, then you can switch it to Sabonis. You need to get the positions right. It's going to be a little tricky, but there's a way to do it. I just haven't figured it out yet. And for what it's worth,
somehow we're lucky, and they say it's 6:45. Oh, Giannis is available like 3 hours from now. Like we'll know.
Yeah, that would make things a lot easier. But if Giannis plays, I'm all in on that. This would be my other. So Chris Paul, I mentioned one of those three Phoenix guys as a priority, partly due to ownership and partly due to the situation. The other ones for me, the Memphis guys, Tyus, Bane, Triple J, Kyrie. I think Fox and Sabonis if Giannis plays, and I think Giannis if Giannis plays. Those are my favorite spend ups to go with all of this value we have. Yep. My favorite of the value, Nembhard, one of Jackson or Smith, Killian Hayes, and then Wiseman, Duarte, Hield. That's sort of what I've got right now as my sort of core group. But I really like the idea. There's going to be like you said, there's a lot of ways you're going to naturally be built, but there's a lot of pivots you can find to try to build like a little interesting stack that maybe people aren't on using using the games that you mentioned, especially the last two, but more importantly, I think the Dallas game. Yep. All right, well, guys, we will be live with you at 6 Eastern. Should be a fun night to get the week off to a good start. And Sheets, anything else?
No, hang on there with me after you